What's going on, guys? Tex HD here. Today we're ranking the best goalies in the NHL. But first, I actually want to make a few changes to last week's video. We ranked the best defensemen. So first here, guys, we have Mark Giordano, upgrading him from great to elite. I feel like he had such a good year this season. He's got to be in that elite tier, especially if he goes on to win the Norris Trophy. And then next up, a couple guys that have played very well this playoffs, and one of them will be winning the Stanley Cup, Charlie Mcavoy and Kolten Perico. They just logged so many minutes for their teams. I could argue they're the most important defensemen on that team. So again, one of those wins the Stanley Cup tonight, and I feel like both of those guys definitely deserve the upgrade there to the great tier. And next year, guys, we're going to start ranking the goalies. The 5 tiers are elite, great, good, league average, and bad. I feel like we only have a couple goalies in bad, if any. Also, I want to apologize for my voice. I have a bit of a cold, so sorry if it doesn't sound too good, but we're going to get started here. Andrei Vasilevskiy, so pretty tough one, honestly, to start off with. I feel like he's either elite or great. I know having Tampa Bay in front of him, like such a stacked team, definitely helps his numbers, but I do feel like he's one of the better goalies in the league. I think, honestly, maybe top 5, so I'd say he's elite. Antti Raanta, I know, is a very good goalie when he's healthy. Sometimes, like this year, though, he hasn't played that great. Now, having said that, I still think he's a pretty good goalie, so I'm going to put him in the good tier. Next up here, we have Ben Bishop. I probably would have put him in the great tier until, like, the last 3 months of the season where he went absolute god mode, and I feel like he deserves a spot in that elite category. Like, he was just that good. Also, the guy's probably going to win the Vezina Trophy this year, so he's got to be in that elite category. Next up, you have Braden Holtby. I think top 5, maybe top 3 goaltender in the league, so definitely as well in that elite category. Obviously, big part of Washington Capitals winning the Stanley Cup last year. Carey Price, in my opinion, is probably still the best goaltender in the NHL when he's healthy, when he's on his game. So for me, he's definitely elite. And if there was a franchise tier, he may be probably the only one I'd think about it for. But right now, I think it's probably more fair having him elite. He has, gone down his game a little bit the past few seasons. And next up here, we have Carter Hart, who's really tough to judge as he's so young. Obviously, just played his rookie season. I think he's like the youngest goalie to make it to the NHL in a long time. So he'll definitely end up in the elite category, I think. Right now, though, he's probably just good, which, again, for his age, I think is honestly really impressive. Now, next up here, we have another Carter. This is Carter Hutton. So he was a really good backup in St. Louis. Not a very good starter, though, for Buffalo. I think he's kind of one of those guys like Brian Elliott, who is a very good backup, or even kind of like a tandem goalie, but doesn't quite make it as a starter, just can't play all those extra games. So for me, he's league average, maybe even bad. Bad's probably a bit too low, though, for him, so I'm going to go league average. Next up here, we actually have Connor Hollaback. Very good goalie, in my opinion. I think he's probably just below the elite tier, though. I think great is probably a good spot for him. After that, we have Corey Crawford. Now, Crawford's really tough to judge. He used to be, I would say, a good, maybe even great goalie. But with injuries and stuff, he hasn't been playing very well. I honestly feel like a fair assessment for him is league average. If you look at his stats, like, they really are much better than league average, so tough for me to put him above that. Corey Schneider here, this is another really tough one. I think he had, like, the worst goalie stats for any NHL starter this year. And not only that, but they were terrible. I know I had him on my fantasy team for a little bit, and he was, like, getting negative points all the time. Obviously, he used to be, I would say, in the elite category, but that was 5-6 years ago. Looking at him right now, I feel like he's bad. It sucks to say, but looking at his stats right now, I don't know how you can say he's league average, because he's much worse than league average. You gotta say he's bad. So, hurts to put him there, but we got to. And next up here, we have Craig Anderson. Obviously, plays for the worst team in the league in the Ottawa Senators, so definitely have to kind of take that into consideration. For me, he's always been like an average goalie, so I feel like league average is probably the perfect spot for him. After that, we have David Riddick. I think he's probably just an average goalie. Doesn't really, stand out to me at all. Devan Dubnyk, I think, would be a great goalie, kind of on that same level as Connor Hollaback. Not quite on the elite level. I know he did, reach that elite level, I think, for like a year or two, but overall, I would say he's probably just more of a great goalie right now. Freddie Anderson, so this one's tough. For me, he's either great or elite. And honestly, I feel like he's probably elite. I think he has reached that next tier. One of the top, 10 goalies in the NHL. And next up here, guys, we have the King of New York, Henrik Lungfish. Obviously, used to be elite, was probably the second best goalie in the league behind Carey Price. But at this point, I would say he's probably just good. Looking at his past few seasons, it's hard to argue otherwise. Obviously, the Rangers teams in front of him have gotten worse, but I think Lundqvist with age has also gotten a bit worse too. Jakob Markstrom here, I think, is also a good goalie. He's also playing in front of a pretty bad team in Vancouver, but still putting up decent numbers. Jimmy Howard, I think, is also going to be in that good category. Just like Lundqvist and Markstrom, not a very good team in front of him in Detroit, but can sometimes steal a game or two and put up decent numbers. John Gibson, I think, is an elite goaltender. Big reason why Anaheim was even competitive for a lot of this year. Big reason why they made the playoffs last year. Probably like the best young goalie in the league, in my opinion. It's either him or Vasilevsky. And next, you guys, you have Jonathan Quick. Obviously played for a terrible LA team this year, so not going to look too much into his stats this season. I feel like that'd be a bit unfair, but still, for me, he's probably a great goalie. I feel like he's not quite on the same level as those elite guys, so great, I think, overall. Is a good spot for him. Next up, guys, you have Jordan Bennington. Obviously, super tough to judge, just like Carter Hart coming off his rookie season. Without him, St. Louis is not playing for the Stanley Cup tonight. They're not even in the playoffs. Like, he is the probably sole reason why they made the playoffs. He just went on an absolute insane run. So I feel like because this rookie season is all his NHL games, all we can judge, and it's pretty hard to say that he's not great based off of that. So I'm going to put him right there. I think elite might be a little bit too much for, 50 games played or whatever it is with the playoffs, but I think great is definitely fair. Marc-Andre Fleury here. I feel like for me, Fleury is just below the elite tier. Really good, obviously, career for him. But I think you look at everything, look how he's played this year, all the years. I think great. Marc-Andre Fleury is a great goaltender, but never quite elite in my opinion. Next we have Martin Jones. Now, Jones had a bit of a shaky year, but I think he's still a good goalie. He actually played, I think, a bit better in the playoffs, at least some part of the playoffs, than he did in the regular season. So I think that's a fair assessment for him. And next year, guys, you have Matt Murray. He's another one that's really tough to judge. When he first broke into the NHL, obviously, had a great run with the Penguins there in the playoffs. Looked like he would have been elite, but once he actually got that starter role, or even just started playing more in the regular season, his stats in the regular season were not even close to his playoff stats, so it's tough to judge. I feel like you have to definitely weigh the regular season more than the playoffs, and based on that, I feel like he's just a good goalie. When the playoffs come around, he's definitely great, maybe even elite, but for a reason, he's kind of a good goalie in the regular season. Next we have Mike Smith. Again, just like his kind of goalie partner there in Riddick, I think he's just a league average goalie. Doesn't really do anything to make him any better, in my opinion. The stats, they're pretty average. Back in the day, maybe he was good, but right now, I would say he's just average. Koskinen here, this one's kind of tough. For me, he's like max league average, maybe even bad. I don't think he's a very good goalie when I watch him. Is bad too harsh for Koskinen? It might be too tough. Like, he's probably an average goalie. We'll put him average there. Like, Schneider, like I said, had the worst stats this year by far, so we had to put him in bad. Pecorino here, he's either elite or great for me. It's pretty close. He did win the Vezina last year, and I mean, he's had, played a while now with Nashville. I think he's probably elite. Peter Mrazek, obviously I like him being a former Red Wing, but for me, I think he's just would I say he's an average? He's probably just an average goalie. Obviously, he had a pretty good playoff run with the Hurricanes, but overall, if you look at his stats, regular season, everything else, he's just kind of an average goalie. Same goes for Grubauer. He had a pretty good run there in the playoffs with Colorado, but regular season, previous years, more or less average goalie. Again, this is like average for a starter, not average for a backup. This is average for a starter. Roberto Luongo, I think, would also be average right now. Obviously, back in the day, would have been an elite goalie, but him and Lundqvist obviously both have had years put on them, and with age, going to get a little bit worse. And next year, guys, you have Robin Lehner, obviously coming off his best season ever. So before this year, I definitely would have had him as league average, but now I feel like he definitely deserves a spot in good. If he keeps it up, like, can repeat this season next year, I'd probably say he's even great. Semyon Varlamov, I would say, is a good goalie. For me, he's never been great or anything, but definitely a good starting goaltender. Bobrovsky, I feel, is elite for sure. For me, probably top three. I'd say it's probably Price, Holtby, and him, if I had to pick three. And then Tuukka Rask here, I think, also is elite. I think, just such a good goalie. Early on in the year, Hollaback's taking a lot of time from him, but I think you've seen this playoff run, just how good he is. Good chance he wins the Conn Smythe if the Bruins win the Cup tonight. So, right there, guys, are my goalie tiers. I feel kind of bad having Corey Schneider as the only bad goalie, but, like, his season this year was so bad, like, I kind of had him put him there, but I think the rest of it is pretty fair. So, let's actually view the community ranks here. Just take a look at a few of them, kind of compare. So, let's see, this first one here, pretty similar elite goalies there. A lot of bad goalies, though. I feel like they're being a bit harsh there on some of those guys. This next one here is pretty interesting. So they have the same 5 elite goalies as us. They're just missing a couple. A lot of guys in good. They have Freddie Anderson as a league average goalie, which is not even close. Jimmy Howard is bad, is also way off, I think. So the last one here, just looking at it. So 4 there. I agree with all of them except for Lundqvist. Like, back in the day, or actually, they made him a franchise. He would have been back in the day. Corey Schneider has his own tier. I feel bad for that. Solid, and then they have starter, elite, so they completely changed it up there. And right here, guys, one final look at my list. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like we might have a bit too many elite goalies, though, so if we had to get rid of one, I feel like Freddie Anderson probably dropped from elite to great. I feel like the rest of those guys, they just gotta be elite. So if we do that, I think it's a bit more even. So there's the final list, period. Be sure to let me know in the comment section what I got right, what I got wrong. Always love hearing your guys' opinions, but that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, leave a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.